Hello and welcome to the Healing Insight podcast, episode 48, with me, Sarah Hunt.
And me, Jez Hunt.
Hello and welcome, everyone. It's lovely to be back. Episode 48 already, Jay.
I know.
What is that?
We're going to be hitting a year shortly,
I
soon.
know. It's amazing, isn't it?
We've covered some
When
really
we
interesting...
started these a
Sorry.
year ago, I really wasn't sure, how it would go and whether we'd manage to do a new topic every week. And we've got topics coming out of our ears, it would seem.
I know. Must be in flow.
Must be. Absolutely must be. So,
What are we talking about this week?
this week, I thought we'd have a chat about integrity.
Integrity. Okay. Integrity. So, what does integrity mean to you, Sarah? While I give myself some time to think.
Well, having integrity to me is being honest, and honesty always starts with yourself, but it's also having strong morals as well that you stick to. So, and those morals might change slightly as you grow and develop and you become older and wiser. But yeah, that's kind of what it means to me. But I think the first thing with integrity is about being honest with yourself and then being honest with other people. That's key to me.
Okay. I agree. Honesty is definitely is a very strong part of this. I think it comes second. I think it's more, for me, integrity is about having strong ethical or moral principles, as you've mentioned.
Yeah.
And then following them at all times. So
Yeah.
if I live by my values, that is integrity, of which being honest with myself, being honest with people is a part of. But I think that the honesty comes a step after it. To me, it's living by my values. It's living by what I believe.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good point, really, which is but then to me, it's equal. So
Okay.
I would say that honesty and living by your beliefs, to me, feel like they need to be equal, because you need to be true to yourself. And to be true to yourself, you need to recognize what your values really are. And to know what your values truly are, you need to be honest with yourself. So it all kind of feels like it goes hand in hand to me.
Okay. So is it possible to be honest if you don't know what your values are?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But then would you not know on a subconscious level what your values are? You might not know what they are on a conscious level because you've never really thought about them. But subconsciously, you'll know what they are because you'll know what feels right and what feels wrong to you.
Yeah, because that's part of how we create our map of the world, how we create our version of the world is
Yeah,
through...
yeah, and we all have what I call a moral compass, and that will give us a feeling, whether we're consciously aware or not, of whether something is right for us or whether it's not, whether it's, because to me, people at different levels of consciousness, so different parts, they may not be as far along their journey as other people, will see things from a different perspective, or the experiences they've had will give them a different perspective, and therefore their morals, their moral compass will be different. So something that feels okay for somebody to do or say, somebody else will be really upset by it because it doesn't fit in with their values. Their moral compass is going, no, that's wrong. But it
Yeah.
might not be wrong for that other person because that's part of their journey, but it's wrong for the person that's going, no, that's wrong.
Yeah. And our moral compass is made up of the things that we have adopted as are true and the values we want to live by.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of values out there. I mean, some of the values exercises I do with clients, I've got 3 pages listed of values. We don't necessarily live to all of them. There will be ones that are our core values, the things that we live by regardless. There are other ones that are possibly context-based values that we live by under certain situations or circumstances. So everybody has a different viewpoint because everybody's experiences, beliefs, values are going to be different. And the way we've talked about with the way we filter stuff,
Yes,
filter information coming in. So, you and I could remember something that happened when we were children, and we would have 2 different perspectives of what actually happened. Doesn't make either of us wrong. It's just that's how we filtered it and how we remember and can recall that particular event. So therefore we all have a different perspective, and some people will agree with us and have a similar perspective on certain things, and some people will disagree with us. And that's just down to where we are in that moment. And that can change and does change over time, because a value that is instilled with us by our parents as children, when we're children, doesn't mean that their value that we've adopted in that moment will stay with us through the rest of our life. It can do.
Yeah, but it might not do, depending on the experiences that we have, which may then change our perspective on things and so change our values.
So exactly. And it's the same with beliefs. If you have a belief that you adopted as a child, that doesn't mean that belief is true anymore for you. It could be, it might not be. You might learn something that actually shifts that belief. And that's a lot of the work I do with clients is shifting beliefs, because they are just stories. So in terms of integrity, then it's practicing living the values and beliefs that you hold at that particular time. The other bit I'd like to add in there, so being truthful, being honest with yourself and with other people about what you believe and what you see, but not to the detriment of somebody else.
Yes.
Because just because I believe this doesn't mean you have to. So
yes, absolutely. So it's having respect for other people's values and beliefs, isn't it, as well? Recognizing that their values and beliefs come from their journey, and their journey is very different to your journey.
Yeah. There are some things in life where everybody that adds up 2 + 2 = 4. So there are some things in life where we can all agree.
Yeah.
But there are lots of things in life where we don't agree. But that doesn't make any of us right or wrong. It just means that that's how I view this particular thing, whatever that is. And sometimes people will resonate on that, and we'll all have common beliefs around that. And yeah, we agree with what you're saying. And other people, you look at pretty much anything out there, whether it's science-based, whether it's religion-based, whether it's politics, you will always have 2 sides or more. There's never a clear-cut, oh yes, we all agree with that. In those sorts of things, it is diversive. It is because we have a different viewpoint, we have different beliefs, we have different values that And the way we filter stuff defines how we then respond or react to something.
Yeah. I was processing all of that. Yeah. So when we have integrity, we still have, well, we have respect for other people and other people's beliefs, don't we? That kind of feels like it comes into it to me.
Yeah. I believe that. I feel that.
Yeah. But it's also that willingness to be honest. But honesty always has to start with ourselves.
I also
So if
think
we're
that,
going to,
sorry,
sorry, go on.
I also think that integrity, I think it's a trait for some people, but I think it's a skill. I think we can all learn integrity. We learn integrity through looking at how we behave and being honest with ourselves. Does that feel right? Does that feel the right thing or the right way for me to be in that situation? And if it doesn't feel right, then chances are it's not within, it's conflicting with your values or your beliefs or your map of, which is,
That comes back then to being heart-centered and heart-led, doesn't it?
yeah.
That ties in with it nicely, really. Um, to yeah, to making sure that everything that you do, everything that you say, comes from a heart-centered place.
It's also linked with trust as well.
Mm.
So I'll use this example. Politicians, they stand up there. If a politician stood up and said, I don't know, blah de blah de blah, whatever it is they say, and then go and do something completely opposite, then they're not working from a place of integrity.
Yeah.
Because if their actions don't match their words, then there's a mismatch. Something's not right. But what that then does is affect people's trust in that person, because they say that thing but they go and do U-turns or they go and do something else. How many times over the years that I can think of where, and it doesn't matter which party's in, where they have their manifesto coming up to the election of, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do the other, and yet the 4 years that they have when they're in, they don't do any of it, or they half-heartedly do it. There's a lot of mismatch with what's being said and the actions being taken in politics, from my observations. And I'm not into it to that level. But this also happens everywhere else. I mean, there have been times when I've said things and not done things as well. I try, I aim, I want to be as close to being me and being honest and open and following my beliefs and my values as much as I can. And if I'm aware something doesn't feel right, then I will look and adjust my behavior or adjust my viewpoint, sometimes even adjust my beliefs to live with integrity.
So to me, integrity links into authenticity as well. Because if you're living with integrity, you're living by your values, you're being honest, and so that allows you to be your authentic self. It allows you to be your true self. It also feels like it allows you to reach your potential as well when you have integrity.
If you're not coming from a place of integrity, then there will be resistance. There will be things won't flow. So to be on purpose, to be in the flow, you have to be working from a place of integrity.
Mm-hmm.
This is the sound of us thinking.
Yes, it is. It's processing the information and just seeing what pops in, relating to it, really.
It's going back to a point that you said earlier. If someone triggers you, if someone's behavior triggers you, then it's likely, or certainly something worth looking at, that their behavior conflicts with one of your values or
Yeah.
beliefs. So it doesn't mean that their behavior is necessarily wrong for them, but there is a conflict between what you're observing and how you would do the same thing in their situation.
Yes. So when you work with integrity, you would be mindful of the fact that it's triggering you and there's something you need to address, but that it might be right for them. Because it would be very easy to react to the situation and go in there and blah, blah, blah. But then you're not having integrity because you're not respecting the situation for the other person. You're just seeing it from your point of view. Whereas if you take a step back and go, hey, why are they triggering me? Why is that behavior triggering me? What is it that I need to look at? What is it that I need to address? Then you're exploring where your values are at, but you're having integrity by you're being honest with yourself, and you may need to respond to the behavior, but respond rather than react, so that you're showing respect, but perhaps needing to address something.
And that can actually be quite challenging. So if you have a situation where someone's behavior triggers you because it doesn't match your values or beliefs or viewpoint, then yes, you absolutely need. I mean, we've talked about this multiple times about responding rather than reacting generally to things that happen anyway, taking that step back and assessing it before you respond. But let's say you respond in kindness, from a place of integrity and respectful of their viewpoint, even though it doesn't agree with yours. And then you find that the other person doesn't care what your viewpoint is. Their viewpoint is their viewpoint, and their viewpoint is right, and nothing else matters. That's a hard place to come from, to come at, to go into, because they're not coming from a place of integrity. They're not respecting your viewpoint. And yet you're trying to understand and respect theirs whilst holding your ground, your values, and your boundaries around.
Yeah, and this is where if you don't have integrity, you can get swayed and pushed into something. It's with integrity, it's where you need to be able to stay firm in your values and your principles, isn't it? So if someone's trying to sway you and move you into something that you know isn't right for you, it doesn't meet your values, it doesn't meet your principles, that you have the courage to be able to say, no, actually, I'm sorry, that doesn't sit well with me, and I'm not going to get involved, or I am going to walk away, or whatever needs to happen. Whereas if you don't have integrity, you might be swayed by that other person and pulled into behaviour that actually doesn't really sit with you particularly well. But
Well, it's not even necessarily being put. You could be bullied into.
true.
So if you're not standing up for how you believe, and again, this is about, we're talking in this context, we're talking about doing this from a place of love, from a place of respect.
Yeah.
If you're not standing up for what you believe, so someone's doing something that triggers you, they're acting in a way that doesn't fit in with your values, you're being respectful of them and saying, look, okay, I appreciate where you're coming from, but I don't agree. If you're not doing that, then you're not actually coming from a place of integrity.
Yeah.
Because you're not standing up for your own values. You're allowing the other person to sway, bully, whatever,
Railroad. Yeah.
you into their way of thinking.
Yeah.
And actually, if it is your way of thinking, when they first say it, it would resonate rather than great
Yes.
anyway. So there is no being swayed unless it's through you having a broader understanding. So something they said now adds to the information you have about whatever it is you believe in, and it gives you a shift in that. Actually, I hadn't thought of that. Actually, that affects that. That makes my belief about that now different.
Yeah.
In which case, then, yeah, I mean, that's the purpose of that's what we do when we're learning through life. That we hold a belief, and then something happens through our life, and then that belief might change, it might adapt, it might it might be completely different, because we now have more experience and more knowledge to be able to apply to that belief and say, yes, that still holds true, no, it doesn't.
But then that comes to, there needs to be a degree of flexibility with our values. Not that we shouldn't uphold them, because I do feel that we should do. But like you say, there can be things that change our perspective and therefore change the values that we hold. Not so much that we change them completely as we hold, but maybe the importance of the core values might change because of something that happens or something that's said that puts a different perspective on things. But where I'm trying to go with this, where am I trying to go with this? When we've got integrity, we've got strong moral principles that we refuse to change. However, we don't want to be in that stubborn situation where nope, not looking at anything else. That's it. To me, that's not having integrity.
That's narcissism, isn't it?
It's when you've got integrity, you've got strong principles, you've got strong morals. You're willing to stand by those morals, but you're also open to looking at things from different perspectives that might just shift things a little bit for you, so that you're not just holding those values for the sake of holding those values. You're holding those values because you know they're for your highest good. You have a great understanding of what that means for you, what those values mean for you and the way that you lead your life. So And it's like we said before, your values will be different to my values. There's a lot of values that everybody can have, but the importance of the different values will be different for different people because of the experiences that we've had.
Yeah. I feel that I believe that, you know, our values change over our lifetime anyway. Certainly
Yeah.
from when we were children, if we were to analyse our values as a child compared to my values now, there is definitely going to be a shift. Some of them might be there. Honesty might be there, but as children, you know, we do go through phases of dishonesty because we're pushing boundaries. So honesty might be something that I've learned later on. I mean, I don't know what my values were back then because I'd never really even investigated or even thought or journaled on it. But the point is, in my mind, our values shift or can shift anyway. But we have, again, my opinion, we have two kinds of values, I guess. So we have core, what people know say they're your core values. So if I have a core value of honesty, if it's one of my core values, then that is something that I would likely do pretty much in everything I do, whether it's work, whether it's as a parent, whether it's as a colleague, whether it's as a boss, whether it's as a, you know, whatever. Then if honesty is one of my core values and it's important to me and it's part of my integrity is to be honest, then I would be honest in pretty much every situation. But we can also have context-based values where your core values still have a part to play in that, but you have additional values or other values that may take precedence or may go alongside. They won't necessarily conflict, although you can have conflicting values. I was going to say they may not conflict with your core values, but actually you can have conflicting values. Where when you're in a particular circumstance or role or place, then a situation, then other values can kick in because of the situation. Mm-hmm. So therefore, your behavior will change because of a situation or circumstance you're in versus if you weren't in that situation or circumstance.
Okay.
Let me try and give you an example.
Can you give an example?
Okay. So somebody who might not, so one of their values might be do no harm, you know, don't harm anyone, be nice to people. They find themselves in, they find themselves in a situation where they are in a job or something where they are bullied into behaving in a way that conflicts with their values, but they go along with it because it doesn't conflict enough for them, or they're not being, they have the integrity to say, actually, no, I'm not going to do that. So for example, and this is an extreme example, but going to World War II with Hitler and the way that the various soldiers carried out some of the acts that they did doesn't mean that they were all into being abusive and being, and I'm sure there are all different levels with all different kinds of people, but some people followed the order. You know, that was one of the things in the Nuremberg Code was you can't, you know, or through the war crimes stuff that happened after that was I was only following orders, didn't cut it.
Yeah, and I can think of such situations actually. That's just kind of triggered memories for me as a ward sister, as a senior staff nurse as well, years ago, where I had integrity and I would kick up a fuss because I didn't have enough staff on the ward for the patients that I had that were being looked after. And I got a bit of a name for myself because because I would kick up a fuss, but I was having integrity and saying, this isn't safe. I was sticking by my principles and my morals with being able to run the ward safely for the patients that I had, and the degree of care that they needed, and the numbers of qualified staff that I had on duty at the time, and the numbers of unqualified staff. But I got into situations where I was really having to stand my ground, because to me it was so important to have that integrity in that situation to uphold the care for my patients.
You could have been easily swayed in terms of keeping the peace, because if you
Yeah.
stand out like a sore thumb compared to everybody else, I mean, there's that whole thing about uniformity and conformity that we're programmed through with, you know, from early age through school and onwards, that, you know, don't stand out, don't be different, because
Yeah.
if you do, you'll lose your job, or you'll get the sack, you'll get us into trouble, you'll whatever it might be.
I came very close to to being suspended a couple of times because I stuck my neck out and said, no, this isn't acceptable. But yes, you're right. It would have been very easy to have been swayed and, don't say anything, Sarah, just put up with it and get on with it. And
So in those instances in our lives where something doesn't resonate with us, but we then choose not to do anything about it, then we're losing integrity. We're not holding integrity.
mm,
Hmm.
it is quite a subject to kind of explore and think about, isn't it? Because if you look at different times in your life, there may be times where you have had integrity and you have stood in your power and said, no, this doesn't sit well with me. And there'll be other times when maybe you've been swayed.
Yeah, and I no, I'll put my hand
I
up and
can
say
certainly think of
I can
times.
see both sides of that happening
Yeah, me
having
too.
happened in my life for sure.
Absolutely. And that's part of our learning.
Yeah,
That is part of our learning, and coming to an understanding of what is really important, which values are really important for us, what it is that's key for us for the way that we want to live our lives. Um, but it's quite interesting when you start delving into it and start looking at times when you have had integrity and times when you haven't had integrity. And actually having integrity is really, really important, and it's going to be more important as we move forward, all of us, because we are moving into a more heart-centered way of being and a more heart-led way of being. And if we're heart-centered and heart-led, then to me that goes hand in hand with having integrity and being authentic. It all kind of fits together to me.
yeah,
Interesting topic.
indeed, indeed.
Interesting topic. So listeners, hopefully we've given you lots to think about, maybe something to explore for yourself and journal about, or just jot notes down about, looking at your values, your core values, and also times where you have had integrity and times where maybe you haven't had integrity. And if you've not had integrity, why is that? Is it because you've not actually been honest with yourself? Is it because you've been bullied? Is it because of some other reason? But maybe something to explore, because integrity is important. It's an important life skill, that all of us need to work on and develop as we move forward.
Yeah.
So,
So
so another really interesting topic.
let us know. Let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you think, because
Yeah.
We're just
You might
discussing
disagree with us.
we're just discussing our opinions, and we're just putting our opinions across as possibilities. But you know,
Yes.
as we've discussed, you know, we all have our own viewpoint and we all have different ideas. And you know, please do engage with us and tell us what you think.
Yeah. Yeah. By all means, you may disagree with us completely, or
Absolutely, and that's okay.
and that's okay.
Respectfully, that's
Absolutely
okay.
okay. Yes. All we really want to do is trigger thought in you so that you can explore subjects for yourselves and come to understand yourselves
Better.
on a deeper level.
Yeah, agreed.
So, with that in mind, thank you, Jeremy, for your time.
Thank you.
It's been good to catch up.
Yeah.
And until next time, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.